the kingdom. That's why I say, I'm not a pastor in the Ukraine. I am a deliverer of a nation and a people. So that goes beyond church. That goes beyond growth. That goes beyond influence. I am on a mission. Definitely, you are not the only one, but everybody's got his own aspect, his own sphere, his own stratum that he has to work with. So that's what we're talking about. And Pastor, I could see its seriousness, but I'm not sure of the seriousness of other guys. So I'm going to throw it out, because if he wants us to do what he's asking us to do, that's going to be costly for us. Let me say, for example, what I'm saying, the way I understand it, is that he would like a situation whereby we have a team of maybe top 10 to 20 leaders of the Caribbeans. Form a team, like I did this in Nigeria, and we only pick 5. And in Nigeria, we have hundreds of mega churches, mega pastors, big guys. But, the big guys who just want to do their church and build their empire, good for them. I'm not interested. But the big guys who want to build a kingdom and change a nation. So we only unpicked 5. I unpicked 5. Because they said we all want to learn, but I'm seeing their intentions. We got them to fill out some things, and I picked. One of the guys we picked is a attorney general. He's not a pastor. He's maybe a pastor, but a believer, but he's the attorney general of Lagos State. He's in that team. So you don't need to be a pastor per se, and or just religious, but you must be determined and you must be focused to change your world. Then we have a bishop. Then we have the head of the old Pentecostal movement in another state, in that state. So also part of that team. So they have called themselves the transformation team. So they all have their big churches and ministries, but they are looking beyond that. Can you get me now? They have all their churches, individual churches, but they are looking beyond that to see what they could do to transform their nation. So this is a vision that is going beyond success, beyond growth, beyond all kind of ambitions. And one of the things I demand from them is, look, if you really want to follow me, for me, it's impossible to follow me. You've got to run with the guy. As one American bishop is calling it running with the apostle. So you've got to run with the apostle, because I'm thinking in very so then that's the first example that I wanted to show you of what could happen here. So then, for example, those people running with the apostle means if we want to gather these guys who are in this team, if I tell them, let's meet sometime, London or somewhere in US, and meet for 3 days to strategize out, they will not tell me, well, I am busy, I have a church program, or the pastor or my denomination tells me I have to. They have to be their own men. So it's getting more serious now, you see.
I like it.
We are cutting down the list right now. And we don't want a situation when we say we want to change the whole of Caribbean, and we are forming this team of what changers, and you say, well, who pays for my ticket? Get lost. Yeah. I mean, you have to be independent already. You have to be a person of your own mind. You have to be your own man. And you have to know that you are ready to sacrifice for this goal and for this purpose. So the second place this happened was in New York. In Philadelphia. That's where God spoke to me. So I picked like 6 people. But here also, not just bishop, he's one of them. He's a bishop, and Like what I'm looking at is, so we form a movement. We want to start a movement right now that is going to be called, and listen, this is going to go beyond Caribbean. I want to form a group of people. I don't know if I should say, are they strong enough to hear some of the things I'm saying? You think so? That's the question I ask you. Are your people ready? You said, I'm ready for it. I said, come. Okay, so I should go ahead. Because if this is what we end up discussing, it's not worse and it's not less in significance than structuring your church for growth. You understand that? Because when the time is up, this is strategy right now. And the church has spent too much time on just preaching and teaching and doing religious stuff. We don't strategize. So this is a strategy movement. So don't think this is less spiritual. Yeah. Okay. So if this is what we end up doing, don't be disillusioned about it. All right? Sometimes strategy is more than rhetorics. Sometimes strategy is what makes you and brings you to a point of action. Sometimes when you just listen to stuff and you don't strategize, you will never be able to do it. You have the desire to do it, but you will really never be able to do it. So this is strategy. Now, so I brought together these guys. Some of them are bishops like him. Like, for example, what is he going to be? We call it history makers. This is going to go beyond you. It's going to go beyond me. It's going to this what I'm talking about is bigger than you. It's bigger than not just you. It's bigger than me. And it's bigger than the whole Caribbean. So it's like a challenge to an opportunity to be a part of something that is really bigger than not just you. That is bigger than even your own nation. So that cuts it down as well. For example, he has a project, by the grace of God, that is heading that department of the history makers. What is he going to be doing? He has, he's a banker, business project people. So we're going to be helping people all over the world through his funds, foundation, and things and the movement to build churches, houses to live in. But this is going to be under this movement, history makers. So, and this is going to be millions and billions of dollars. So if you want to be a part of this thing, it's something big. So that's number one. Number two, we want, under this history makers movement, we want to start a club that is going to have 1,000 millionaires in America, in the world. So we're going to bring together about 1,000 multi-millionaire Christians who are dedicated to subduing their world, the whole world for God. Now, can you imagine by the time you have 1,000 millionaires in one team, and that gives you access to billions, and you are Christians. So this is big. So I've not spoken much, but that's why I'm saying, are you ready to receive this? So this is for example, you want to say, we want to change Caribbean. For example, I come with a team, we discuss that, and we say we want to do something that will affect this whole nation. So I come and say, I call the prime minister, or somebody calls your prime minister and says, we are coming with 500 millionaires that are able to start 5,000 new businesses. For 20 years, your country is begging the whole world to come and do that. But here is one group that says, we are going to do it. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at. So the prime minister is going to be begging you. He's not just going to give you the stadium or license to preach. He's going to give you anything you want. Every country, even Saudi Arabia, is going to be begging you to come. So that is another aspect. But that's just one aspect. Another aspect that we're looking at is we have someone there that have medical services that want to build hospitals all around the world. And he's being there because he's saying, I need leadership. I have about 6 hospitals in America, but I need leadership to take the word. I wanted money, but now I'm not interested in money. I got money, but I want significance now. I want to leave my footprint at the history of the world. So he wants to be here and say, Pastor is telling me, Pastor, the only thing I need is for you to talk. Where do we need to take the medical services to? Where do we need to do? And those things are going to be many. Then, going beyond that, we're going to have, churches, people, a department that's going to be planting churches. So, for example, we could have a goal of planting 200 new churches in the next 5 years in the Caribbean, for example, or in the world, or 2,000 churches in the world, something like that. So this is going to be, that's why we need only key people. Because the key people we have, they will have to find everybody will have to find other 10 people that are ready to change their world as well. Not just find your leaders in your church or your pastors in your church, but find people of the same caliber. People that are doing things on the national scope, and people that are doing things on the world scope. People that are doing things to change, that are ready to go for it and just change their world. So that is what I am. And that's what I'm already busy doing. So these people are saying, we're already big in our own classes, all of us. But we want something more bigger than us. And we want to do something for the kingdom, because people just go to church and do things for their churches and this. But we want to go beyond that and do kingdom stuff and be totally sold out to the kingdom. And I think it's a challenge because, for example, I've always been thinking, my God, it's a disgrace to Christianity that we only have 200 countries in the world, and yet for 2,000 years we've not been able to make any impact. I'm thinking to myself, and I think with all humility, and I'm thinking, please, excuse me, you only need 200 people like Pastor Sunday. I got to Ukraine, and that makes all the difference in a whole nation of 50 million. Get 200 people who are totally sold out, who are God addicted. And who you will train to be kingdom carriers. And you find world changers everywhere. All right? Then they are going to have, their whole team in music, in other spheres of life, in politics, entertainment, in everything. Then I'm kind of crazy, but I see how to subdue the earth. But what this history maker movement was probably going to be called history makers movement is for is synergy. So we bring it together, the best of everybody and the best of everywhere. So people who have money, people who have resources, people who have influence, people who have connections, we are all bringing that together. And I foresee in the future that there will be politicians in this team. There will be presidents in this team. So we are going to bring all that together as a synergy and cause a whole movement that we can just go with all our strength and power and go and make a lasting effect in one area or the other. Not everybody is going to be here, and not everybody needs to be there. We don't even need for everybody. We are begging for everybody not to be there. But this is the kind of thing we are looking at. People who are dead to themselves, people who have personal agendas, people who are just about God and His kingdom, and people who want to subdue the earth for God. Pastor, you wanted to add?
Well, God bless you. How many of you are hungry for God and ready to make a difference in this world? History makers transforming nations. In 1998, I felt a burden like I've never felt before. And God gave me this burden to preach wherever I went for the entire year. No more business as usual. Needless to say, I was crazy. And I'm still crazy, but I found someone who is more crazy than me, who wants something more than the norm. And so we have prepared a form for you to give you the opportunity to look and see if God is raising you up to make a difference where you are. Amen. The History Makers is a movement. It's not an organization. It's a movement. It's a catalyst. It's going to transform the entire world. And there will be reduction in crime because of the people who will say, I'm not going to no longer be in a box. As a matter of fact, I have destroyed the box. So I don't live in a box, or there's no box near me. I've destroyed the box. And we cannot continue to do church as usual with some programs and some projects. We have to become intentionally missional. We must be a church on a movement, with a movement and a message. So the History Makers Bible School, I'm excited to be a part of it. I met Pastor Sunday I saw him on the television a year ago on TBN. And I said to my wife, I've got to go to the Ukraine to meet this guy. And I forgot all about it. A friend of mine told me about the Bible school in Philadelphia. My own church have a Bible school. But the Spirit of God moved within me and said, you've got to be there. I went to the Bible school, my wife and I, and he said to me, I need to see you and your wife in my room. I said, no, I've been on the road for 4 days away from my kids. I must go back to New York. He says, I must see you and your wife in my hotel room after. Then the Spirit of God said to me, I am opening a door for you that you have been praying and crying for, and now you're ready to walk away from it. My wife and I, we sat at his feet in the hotel room for 7.5 hours, just drinking, because we are hungry for God. We are sold out for God. We don't want church as usual. We got home 5 o'clock that morning from Philadelphia. A 3-hour journey took us 5 hours with different diversions. Sunday morning I went to my pulpit. It wasn't James Nelson as usual. Just listening and drinking from this man of God. It was a new person in the pulpit. It was one who is more determined to see thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So there are plans to develop the History Makers Bible School in London. And with what God is doing, the heart of Pastor Sunday is to develop a History Makers Bible School for the Caribbean region. Amen. Would you put your hands together and bless the Lord? Just to say, we have application forms, only a few for pastors and significant leaders, as you have heard, the kind of caliber of people that we need. We ask you for your name, we ask your marital status, how long you've been involved in Christian ministry, the name of your organization or church, your title in that organization. Then we ask you to give a brief summary for the reasons that you want to be affiliated with the History Makers. We ask you about, which is very critical, what is your shape? And if you're making notes, write this down. What is your shape? S stands for your skills. What skills do you have? We're going to touch the world with every skill. No one is exempt. Nothing is too low for God to use, and nothing is too high for God to use. Then we ask you, what is your heart or your passion? What is your ability? Your personality, if you know your personality type. And then we ask you, what is your experience? This then speaks to Pastor Sunday about where you fit into the scheme of things. And finally, what are you expecting from History Makers and Pastor Sunday's leadership? We need you to write something on number 10. What are you expecting? Because if you are not expecting anything, nothing will happen. Please complete this information sheet at the information desk or the registration tables. God bless you. Thank you.
But what I want to correct some things in what Bishop just said. That, first of all, I'm not going to rush in coming to a conclusion that we want to start the History Makers. I'm just acting on the information Pastor Kumina gave, that it will be needed. I'm not sure yet. And I'm not convinced yet. You guys have to convince me about that. So I'm not telling you that one that we're going to start anything yet. I must look through the caliber of people who write, who fill out the forms. I must see how serious and dedicated and single-hearted they are. Number three, we must not start the school directly here. We must first of all just form a group and see how much people are ready to pay the price. You know, in a place like this, people are excited about the moments, about the joy, about the excitement of the moment. People are, but then when it takes commitment and things, they disappear. So first of all, we want to find that out, and before we really begin to talk big time, serious business. And also, I want to say that this is not for everybody. This, you don't need to even go near those forms. Yeah, if you are not a major leader of something major, national. Because what we're going to do is, I'm going to work with only the top brass of people. Then those will work. Those can later get you if they feel you are qualified. So I'm not going to get involved with